analoge Menschen in digitalen Welten. Und ich glaube, wenn wir David Brennan jetzt hören, der uns das Motto des Tages geliefert hat, dann wissen wir, wohin die Reise geht. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome David Brennan.
You like football? I love football.
That's right.
England-Germany final. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to watch it, but I can tell you the result now. Germany will win on penalties. Go Bayern! I'm delighted to be presenting here today, not only because I'm in this fantastic venue, but also because this coincides with the launch of my first ever book, Connected Television: How TV's analog strengths have created a digital supermedium. And it's a story that I think needed to be told because just 5 years ago, television was dead. It was finished. And so this is a story about, like all stories, it has a hero who faces great adversity, is left for dead, finds redemption, and emerges stronger than ever. And that hero, ladies and gentlemen, is television. Before I start with the story, though, just 3 things about myself, just so you understand where I'm coming from. The first of which is, that is me, by the way, I'm a child of the television age. I was born the same month that television came to my part of the world, and it's been a big part of my life ever since. What that means is, unlike the digital natives, I see new media and new technologies enhancing an existing ecosystem rather than simply replacing. Secondly, I went to university to study economics, and after 3 weeks, I begged them to let me change to psychology. I found the world of economics to be a cold, rational, data-driven, linear place, predictable. And in some ways, a bit like digital, I think, at times, it reminds me of these people, the Daleks. Exterminate, exterminate. I'm much more interested in the world of people. Messy, emotional, unpredictable, complex people. And so that's what I've spent my whole career studying. I've had 32 years in media research, most recently at ThinkBox, the TV trade body in the UK. And during my 5 years there, we were credited with changing advertisers' perceptions of TV, not by simply telling everybody how good television was, but by helping advertisers get the best out of the TV medium. And I was very fortunate in that my time there actually allowed me to create the evidence, to actually, rather than just do normal traditional research, to look inside the heads of consumers and look under the bonnet of advertising research. And that evidence forms the foundation of my book and very much forms the basis of what I'm going to talk about today. And what I'm going to talk about today is 3 things. I'm going to ask the question, why did TV die? Why was something that was so central to our culture and our lives get written off so easily? I'm then going to look at what has kept TV going, because every single technology that was predicted to kill TV is now mainstream. And yet TV is in a place stronger than ever. Why did that happen? And then what does that teach us about where TV is going, about TV's future? And in a sense, I would argue the answer to all those questions doesn't come about by looking at the technology. It comes about by looking at people. It's a gratuitous image, but it's such a good one, I had to have it. In particular, what I'm interested in is this idea of the death of TV. It's been predicted for almost 20 years now. The first book, Life After Television, predicted television would be dead by the end of the decade. The 1990s, that is. And book after book ever since has told us it's time. Television is old, it's an old medium, the new medium of internet is going to come along and destroy it. And over the course of the late 1990s and the first decade of this century, this started to infect the marketing industry. And headline after headline after headline predicted the death of TV. I'm going to concentrate on just one of those. TV, it's so over. For the simple reason, this was a headline in one of the UK's quality newspapers the day I joined ThinkBox. And it was only when I read the article I realized just how deeply this TV is dead narrative had started to take hold. Because the article talked about a new competitor to the dusty old box in the corner of the room. And that competitor was mobile TV. Now, I can't think of anything less competitive with TV. If you're in the room, you're going to use the big set to watch your immersive entertainment. What mobile TV does is take television to places and spaces and contexts within which it had never been seen before. That's not competition, that is enhancement. And this kind of TV is dead argument baffled me, because all my time at ThinkBox, all I could see was TV viewing at a record high, year after year after year. Viewing to TV commercials, which was supposed to be dead since the launch of the DVR, reaching even more record levels year after year. We're seeing unparalleled response, not just to the TV programs, but to the commercials, for the simple reason that people have got the perfect response tool right by their fingertips, their laptop. And what all this means is TV advertising is getting more effective than ever. But the reason, despite all of this evidence, that the TV is dead narrative took hold was because I believe we've been dazzled by digital. In particular, we've been dazzled by the torrent of data. Thousands, millions, billions, trillions. So many numbers, but so little context. And I think this has led to the simplicity of digital thinking, which runs like this. Surely those thousands of digital startups must be taking their crumbs from somebody's table, mustn't they? Surely those millions of YouTube views have to be coming from somebody else's media time, don't they? And those Google billions must be coming from somebody else's profit line, mustn't they? And that simplicity of thinking, which I believe is based on binary thinking, new versus old, good versus bad, winners versus losers, dead or alive. And that creates replacement theory. This will replace that because it's more efficient. I believe in the beauty of analog thinking, where the whole is greater than the sum of the parts, where media exists in an ecosystem which is enhanced and strengthened by new technologies and new media. And that's the way I believe media works. So that's why the death of TV narrative was allowed to become so believed. And the point is, all the things that were meant to kill TV, wireless broadband, 3G and 4G mobile, connected TVs, TV on demand, and TiVo, are all now mainstream. And yet, TV has gone from strength to strength. So what has sustained TV during this bombardment? I would argue it's TV's analog strength. And the reason we're beginning to understand this is because while we've been dazzled by digital, new thinking has emerged that enables our understanding of consumers and their behavior. And in particular, we now understand it's the power of emotion and what we call the implicit mind that actually governs almost every decision we take as human beings or as consumers. And yet, even today, the majority of marketing and the majority of marketing measurement is based on the conscious, rational brain, which we always like to think is the Oval Office, taking executive decisions, whereas in fact, it's the press office issuing explanations for the decisions we've already taken. And I've worked in media for 32 years now, and if I want to find the truth, I don't go to the press office. What's this got to do with television? Well, television works on two particular parts of the brain more than any other medium. It works on the amygdala, which governs our emotional processing, and the hippocampus, which governs our long-term implicit memory. And think about that. Emotions and memory. That's where brands live. And it's the main influence on our decisions, even the most rational decisions we'll ever take in our lives. And the point is that it's our emotions and our implicit memory that drives the fortunes of brands, markets, even economies, both in the short term, but also, of course, in the long term. There's another new form of thinking which I think also helps to explain TV's continued strength. And that comes from classical economics' smarter little brother, behavioral economics. And again, we've had book after book after book helping us to understand how our decisions are framed. And what they all agree on is actually we don't do the same thing every time. Every single decision, every single judgment we make is based on the context within which it's made. Now, I want to ask you to think about that for the moment. Think about context from the point of view of your marketing communications. Because when those communications are being watched on TV, that context where TV dominates is when we're in the place that we love, in our comfortable, familiar surroundings, at the end of the working day or the end of the working week. We're relaxed, we're playful, we're receptive, we're ready to be entertained and engaged, and we're ready to share with our loved ones and beyond. Compare that to the context within which most other media are clamoring for our attention. On our way to work, rushing between meetings, dropping the kids off at school, quick shopping break, or grabbing a quick lunch while we're at our workstations. Now, these contexts are very, very important, don't get me wrong, but fundamentally different to how those TV communications are received and processed. And there's also the on-screen context. Your communications are surrounded by quality content, both the programs and the surrounding commercials. And as we now know, that has a huge impact on the way that they're received and the way that they're understood. So, with this new thinking and this new insights into human behavior, we're beginning to understand why TV performs so well and so strongly. It's only now that we've got the tools to understand it. So what I want to do is talk about TV's resilience, not in terms of its digital qualities, I'll come on to that, but because of its basic analog characteristics. Its ability to create engagement, and what that really means, the power of storytelling, our desire to share, and the need for trust. And I'll just very quickly take you through them. There's much more in the book about each of these. Engagement. I've seen lots of engagement metrics, but let's remember something. Engagement isn't about click-through rates. It isn't about dwell time. Engagement is about emotion. It's about love. And what we've learned, particularly from neuroscience, is engagement is not attention. It's almost the opposite of attention. It's about immersion. It's about immersion in something brought about by a sense of personal relevance. And I've done neuroscience studies in this area. TV creates that engagement like no other medium. Even the same content online does not create the engagement it does when we're watching television. And that creates long-term memory. Storytelling. TV is the ultimate storytelling medium, from beautifully crafted 30-second stories right the way through to evolving stories that play out over days, weeks, months, even years. And storytelling is so important to human development, human learning, and human memory. It's actually the basis of those things, which is why a baby can understand story, can understand narrative, before it's spoken its first words and before it's walked its first step. People process stories, and that's what television does. And that's where the engagement comes from. And there's a great quote that really emphasizes the power of storytelling for marketing. It's an ancient Indian proverb, and it says, "Tell me a fact, and I may learn. Tell me a truth, and I may believe. But tell me a story, and it will live in my heart forever." Heart forever. Emotions, memory. Where brands live. We're also, we now know, social animals. We love to share. And again, sharing is very important to TV. Even today, 70% of TV viewing is shared with other people. It's the most shared medium we have. And we talk about this being the age of viral. There is nothing more viral than two or more people sitting down in the same space and sharing the content that's delivered to them. It's a very, very powerful way of amplifying marketing messages. And when we talk about conversation, let's just remember the launch of Web 2.0 and the power of social media is just the tip of a very large iceberg. Totally, altogether, just 7% of brand conversations happen online. Almost 80% happen when we're together, face to face, in the same space. And that is where most of the shared media and most of the word of mouth power of marketing actually happens. We just never knew to look for it until the rise of the social web. And finally, trust. Trust is becoming a more and more important commodity in this cynical world in which we live. And TV creates trust, again, like no other medium. On one level, that's to do with regulation. TV is, and always has been, the most regulated advertising medium anywhere in the world. And people know if you make a claim on that medium, it will have been checked and it will have been authenticated. But there's another element to trust, which I think in advertising is even more important: reputation. If your brand has got a reputation to lose, consumers feel much more likely to trust in it because you're not wanting to lose that reputation by delivering bad service or bad product. And again, nothing builds that reputation like television. If your brand is on television, that means, by definition, it's big enough to have a reputation to lose. I'm just going to show you a short video which shows these two elements of trust from the point of view of the consumer. Can we show the video, please?
And if it's a company advertising on the internet that I've heard of from the TV, I'm probably more likely to trust them, and if I know about them already, I think.
So why do you think you trust it more if it's been on the TV?
Just 'cause it's more likely to be a well-known brand.
Yeah, because you hear about all these sites that people just set up in, in the spare room, and they can get all your credit card details if you send them it and not give you the product. But at least if it's been on TV, that they've had to pay for advertising, and and the TV companies use the right channels with them and that sort of thing.
People are still short of cash, aren't they? Which is why people are being encouraged to get all their gold and send it through the post. How stupid have you got to be? You wouldn't even put a tenner in a birthday card these days, and yet some people are getting some of their most valuable jewellery and putting it in an envelope marked something like "Cash my gold."
At some point, their partner, the people go, why did you do that? And I said, there was an ad on the telly.
Adverts are powerful things, Dora. I dressed a meerkat up.
I'll mention that last comment in a minute, but that's the point. A company comes out called Cash My Gold. You send all your jewellery to them and they send you cash back. Would you do that if it had just been an internet banner ad or something which television creates that trust they're going to deliver? Now, in talking about TV's analogue qualities, I could have talked about many other things, like surprise, like trusted editors, like emotional heuristics and so on. But I've just stuck to those 4 for today. The point is, they all sound like very soft, emotional issues, and yet it directly translates into advertising payback. Because through econometrics, we now know